podcast doors have.
It's Kubrick's Universe, the Stanley Kubrick Podcast.
Hello, hey, and hi there. Welcome once again to Kubrick's Universe. We continue with our series of special shows covering A Clockwork Orange, commemorating the 50th anniversary of its 1971 release. Hopefully, you've heard our previous episode with Shirley and Tony Jaffe and their tales of working on the film, as this one is a bit of a tie-in. We're going to hear from Maria Galindo about her A Clockwork Orange-inspired short film, Nurse Shirley Foster, which stars the aforementioned wonderful actress Shirley Jaffe. Maria Galindo was born and raised in San Antonio, Texas. She was a musician for many years and also developed an interest in photography. In 2013, while living in Barcelona, she woke up one day and said, "It's now or never," and began writing her first script, A Slice of Life in Barcelona. She would use this film to showcase what she is capable of. She wrote, directed, and edited the film with no formal schooling and on a shoestring budget. After establishing her own independent film company, Mayhem Film Kreations, she developed and directed the short films Witch Hour and, the subject of our conversation with her, Nurse Shirley Foster. James Marinaccio and Stephen Rigg had the chance to catch up with Maria to discuss the film. And we'll also connect with our previous episode by hearing more from Shirley Jaffe about her experience working with Maria Galindo on this unique project. So hang with us as we peel the orange, yet again, to unveil yet another layer.
Let's talk about your nurse. It's Nurse Shirley Foster. Is it Nurse Foster or Nurse Shirley Foster?
No, Nurse Shirley Foster.
Okay. So how did you, let's start with how did you meet Shirley?
So I went to this networking meeting. And when I was there, right away I saw her. She was a little lady, she's like 8. When I met her, she was 82. And I, she was just very fascinating looking. Her face and her gray hair, and right away I just saw something in her, and I was like, "Wow, I would put that." Everybody needs an old lady in a movie. Like it's that. Like I'm always like, "Oh man, I need that lady to play something." So right away I looked at her and I was like, "Oh, gold." And I didn't even know at first. I just saw her and I was like, "Oh wow. Man, I can do this," because I'm always looking I have an eye for people, but I'm always looking to do projects anywhere I'm at, because since I write it, direct it, cut it up, and even score the thing most of the time, I can make a mini movie. I can make a vision of what I want to make and get it out there to be made into a feature or whatever. So I saw her and I was like, wow, like this little old lady would be great in a movie. And then everybody introduces themselves in a circle, sitting around a circle, until it says what, you do.
Shirley Jaffe.
I went to a filmmaker's, what do you call it? No, it wasn't. It meets once a month, and it's a sort of get-together of local Brighton, Sussex filmmakers. I mean, I've done lots of small films. There's a film school at Portsmouth and Brighton and Eastbourne and all over the place, and they meet up once a month in a cinema here that has a bar, and we talk about what we're doing and ask for people, and I've had a few jobs through it and try and encourage one another and so on. And I just happened to, because the story that I was involved in, Clockwork Orange, had just come out the time before, I took with me pictures of the house and the magazine pictures of some of the shots from the film.
Right.
And I happened to have them that night, and Maria was in there.
Maria Galindo.
And that day I was really lucky because she had a folder, and she actually brought like the newspaper clippings of when she was in A Clockwork Orange, and some interviews, and she had pictures, like stills, like original photos of her in her nurse costume, and she portrayed the nurse that prepared the injection,
right,
that gave the doctor to give Alex Malcolm McDowell. So when I saw this, I mean, I'm a huge Kubrick fan. Ever since I was a child. Like I have a story to tell about that too in a second. But I saw that and I freaked out. And being in England, I love from Morrissey to all the English punks, the Buzzcocks and everything of music. And then when it comes to cinema, oh yeah, Kubrick, Then, I met her and whatnot. She took out her photos of Kubrick and took out everything. And I looked at it and I was like, wow. I was like, this is amazing. Everybody there seemed like that was a normal thing. They were used to her constantly always being there, So for me, it was like huge. And I was all over that lady, hugging her. And I wanted to know like so much things. They took pictures of us together right away because I was just so happy like a child. And it just happened like that. And then I told her, listen, I'm going to think of something. I'm going to shoot with you. I'm going to think of something.
And she's mad about Clockwork Orange. She's absolutely crazy about it. And she said, I could make a film about this. And she was going on. And I thought, nothing will happen.
About a week later, I called her and I told her, hey, I'm going to do this silent film. So that way, we don't have to deal with a lot of dialogue. And I'm going to make it a short film.
Within 2 weeks, she'd set up a small film, a producer, a cast, various places for sets. And within a couple of weeks, we'd shot it. Then she managed to set up a couple of performances, one in a pub in London where they had, they show short films every month. And one here in a pub where they show short films.
I ended up making it 6 minutes because there's a little, it's like, I think it's every month. It's monthly. It's called a London Kino. And you have to have a 6-minute short film. Oh, okay. So I made it 6 minutes just for that little festival that they do. We got in, and before you knew it, I was taking Shirley in a van, getting the old lady in a van. Oh. We're going to London. I took her to London. They screened it. Everybody loved it. She got the microphone, got to talk about Kubrick a little bit and everything like this. So it was quite an experience for her, and it was really fast. She didn't expect for me to actually go do it, shoot it within like three days and complete it. And I edited it in about maybe less than 2 weeks.
And she was such a ball of fire, this woman. Her name is Maria Galindo.
Maria Galindo.
She gets rewarded for this pushing and determination. I mean, she's terrific. It felt like the big wind had gone past us. And then when she went back to America, I thought life suddenly became very dull.
She met Kubrick by he wanted her house. She was in a magazine that was like the most modern homes in the 70s, and he saw that house. And that house, they filmed the rape scene, the famous rape scene. So
yeah, that's where the writer lived. Yeah.
Yes. So right away when I spoke to her and she was like, yes, come by for a cup of tea and we'll talk, I thought I was going to go into that house. Uh-huh. I was so excited. I was like, oh my God, do you know, I wonder if it's the same, or at least the floors, like they had the checker floors and everything. And I wonder, so many things were going through my head. I was going nuts. And she gave me her address. I was like, is this where this is? So then I went, and there was apartment buildings, and I was like, no, this can't be it. So when I went in and I talked to her more, I had a cup of tea with her. she told me that they had sold the property a long time ago, and it was about 2.5 hours or so from where she lived now in Brighton. So, but for a good while, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm going to go on that property. And it wasn't.
Oh, well.
I didn't want to ask her either to be like, that's the only reason I want to go, or I don't care about anything.
Well,
just
it was
take me to that
ago.
property.
Yeah, me and Stephen, we did something last year where we were documenting all the locations where, frankly, all of Kubrick's films and things related to him filming his films and his life in and around London. And, it's mostly Clockwork. Clockwork Orange is the most British film he ever made. And it is amazing how close to his home nearly everything was. And so that house is much closer to London. Oh, that's fantastic. That's a great story. Just a little aside note, when you were saying about when you saw her, and there was just something about her visually. But in addition to even before you knew who she was, that reminds me of David Lynch. He has a fascination with putting elderly people. In almost every movie he's ever made, he has major parts for he has a fascination with elderly people. It's just something about the way they look, I guess, that fascinates him. And when you said that made me think of that.
Oh yeah, I have this one shot in that film where she comes off a stairway and she's looking around, and she looks really dazed, and the lighting, everything is just so perfect, and the wrinkles.
Yeah, I know that part.
Yeah, thank you. The wrinkles on her face are just so. It's just mesmerizing. Just that piece of cinema right there, just that little cut. Mm-hmm. I always take screenshots of it and advertise or make it a poster. I like it so much. But
the film is it's her it's a dream sequence.
Yes.
It goes from color to black and white.
Yes.
Right, if I'm remembering right. And I guess she's haunted by what she did with Alex, because she's like reliving it in the dream with a giant oversized needle.
Overdoing it in a dream, freaking out. But yeah, she's traumatized by it, and I had to think of something, and I didn't want to just give her like a role. I wanted to make a movie with her. I thought everything was fascinating what she told me. So that's just the first thing that came up in my head, was that I put myself in those shoes. If I was doing this in the 1970s and I saw everything that it caused a person or people that went through it. I mean, it was only him, but still the mentality of it in those days. And then of course she's alone. She's eating dinner alone. She goes to bed. And in my mind, the way I set the character is to have a lonely old lady with just these terrible memories.
Right.
So basically, she's haunted by it. She's traumatized by it. She goes to sleep and she goes into a dream world. And what she's doing is she's looking for Alex. She's looking for the patient to stick him with the needle. So it's funny because I don't literally put so much in it. There's just little clues in there that, like, when the mad doctor gets the clipboard, it says real huge in letters. It says Alex. Yeah. And just little things like that.
Also, before she goes to sleep, she's having dinner and her wall is orange.
Yeah. And I put that in the.
Did you find an orange room, or did you paint it?
Oh, I painted that wall. I painted that wall orange. Yep. I painted that wall orange. We took a photo shoot of her there, and it doesn't come out in the film again. It's all black and white, and we don't focus on that wall when we're shooting. But yeah, that was the little, hints to it. It's just came out the way it came out, and she was all for it. She went and got a nurse suit that was from the 70s. She went and she knew exactly where to get it, and she she was all for it. She went and she did her extra research to get that hat, and she's a great actress. She's still active at this age. She just I believe she's 84 now. She just turned 84. So Shirley is a great a great actress, and she has many, many wonderful, amazing stories. Not only of the making of A Clockwork Orange, but many other things that she's done in her career, in her time, you know. But yeah, she also told me that that they said, "Oh, we're just gonna use your house for a couple of weeks," and it turned into like about 3 months.
Oh my God.
Yes. So she has some really crazy stories. She really, she was an actress at the time, and she thought, "Oh my God, I've been found. Kubrick found me. He's gonna put me in his films," But it was not like that. He was interested in her house, and then she was able to get a small part as the nurse. So, yeah.
So do you like other Kubrick films? Or I see you like.
I like them all.
Did you like Shining? I would assume would be one of your favorites because it's horror.
Yeah, that's my second. That's my second favorite from him. I love The Shining and the torture of making that film too. Really so many times to shoot I think it was 127 times they shot that bat scene. Shelley Duvall was just so exhausted, and just everything that he would make them do, and they would do it. That's fascinating. The paper stack that's that had to be typed out. Everything had to be typed out. It wasn't like, oh, put 10 sheets and put a stack of paper. No, I want every sheet to have that exactly, or we're not going to shoot it. So I find that very precise.
Yeah, those a little
dominant.
Extreme. The Jack Torrance character who types all that. There's a little of that in Kubrick because he, like you say, he could have just had an assistant type 5 pages and make 150 copies of them, but he had the person type all of them.
Yes. So that's definitely one of my favorites. Full Metal Jacket, of course. But everything. The Killing. That's about a horse racetrack, and the way that he planned it, and everything that he did. I think that was his first feature. Is that correct?
He had 2 features before that were both around 65 minutes.
Oh no, that's right. It was the
Fear and Desire and Killer's
Desire. Yeah. Okay, well, The Killing. I saw this maybe last year, and I had never seen that one before. I really enjoyed it. The way that he goes back and he shows like what happened. Okay, they're gonna get in a fight, and then they go back and they showed what happened when they threw the bag of money out the window and whatnot. I really loved it. Like it was different. That film was different than the other ones that I had seen. But I love and admire everything Kubrick does. So and has.
The film before Killer's Kiss kind of reminds me like the story you're telling about kind of guerrilla filmmaking. He did that on the streets of New York, and he was really green, and he made mistakes, and he actually had to redo all the audio. You can kind of hear it. Kind of has a cheap sound to it because he messed up with the microphones, and he had to redo a lot of the sound. And it's it's kind of his early guerrilla filmmaking.
On A Slice of Life in Barcelona, that film is a puzzle. Like nobody would ever be able to figure that out. Like if I had to redo it, it'd be so difficult for me to remember everything because I have lost things before and I had to go in there. Mm-hmm. I manipulated the sound so much where I would fake it out and put other things to have a background to match the hiss of this and that, because that movie was done all wrong. It was my first movie ever, and I didn't care that it was going to be done all wrong. I wanted to do it to make sure that it gets done, and it's on the brim of passing. It could just, as long as it's on the brim. So I got a Canon XH-A1 camera, and that has 2 XLR jacks. I plugged in some really nice Rode microphones, and everything was recorded together. Now, what's crazy is that I shot all that, and it took a year to shoot it. It took a year to cast it, and once I had half the cast, I started shooting it. And it took it took a year to cast, a year to shoot, and a year to edit. But I edited it in San Antonio. So there was no reshoots or nothing like that. I shot it, and what it was had to work. And since I already knew a little bit about sound due to music and everything like this, but it's passable. And I proved to everybody that it passed because I got distribution. But it's not, I learned so much from it. And that's why in Nurse Shirley Foster, I wanted to just make sure to get everything done nicely and quickly. That's why I chose black and white. I didn't have to deal with so much of, the color changes and color correction of this and that. It was easier for me. Also having it with no sound and just having a very dysfunctional saxophone, that was also easier for me not to deal with sounds and dialogue. And Shirley's a great actress, but Shirley, if you give her a whole bunch of dialogue, it would have been more work for her and me. And it wasn't. It was shot very quickly. I think it's more of an experimental film. I've never done anything like that before.
Right. There's a point where Nurse Foster screams or shouts out, and you use the saxophone to kind of be her scream.
It reminds me of Charlie Brown. I shit you not.
Wah, 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 wah.
Yeah, she's yelling for the girl. Yeah, and like I do another one when she squirts out some of the serum from the, what is it? The syringe. The syringe. It comes in. The way I found that saxophone, I didn't want to deal with no instruments there. His name is Wayne Green. And the way I found that guy was, there's a place called the Bee's Mouth, and I did a screening there. I had never been to Brighton, and I was like, well, I'm going to do a screening in this bar basement and hope for the best. So they would have open mic night there. And there was this guy to go with his saxophone and do his open mic. And he told me, I loved it. He goes, can you believe that one time I was booed off the stage, or he said something that sometimes people don't like it because it's such an extreme, weird saxophone pieces that he does. Some people find it noisy. I found it amazing. I had all these visions in my head of like people running downstairs and all these crazy lights, and none of that happened. But it was my first, vision of like somebody trying to get away in a dream, getting out of there. It was all supposed to be in a dream. And then it just turned out to be like, okay, well, let's do something simple. So actually there was 3 locations. One location was where she's in those stairs, and like, it's like all this, you can see like a fire extinguisher and do not enter. Right. Well, that was an abandoned building.
Wow.
Yeah. And my friend had access in there, and I was like, do you think I could shoot a scene in there? And I was like, nobody comes around here. And she's like, no, nobody's gonna tell you nothing, just make it quick. So I went in there with just one light and had the light shining in a direction, and had her come down the stairs and out and around. So just in those little pieces where I needed a stairway and whatnot, we used that abandoned building. So it's kind of weird, taking an old lady to an abandoned building and taking her to London and driving her, taking her. And she was, it's hilarious to me. And she was all for it. She's such a great sport.
Weird, but fun.
Yeah. So yeah, we did there. We did it at an apartment where I painted a wall orange, and then the rest of it, I think actually it was 2 locations. It was only that location, the other location, because I flipped it to make it seem like her bedroom in the same living room that I used with the wall. So it was only 2 locations. And shot it real quick. And the editing, since I do all the editing, I'm already editing in my head when I'm shooting. When I'm writing, I'm already thinking about how I'm going to shoot it. When I'm shooting, I'm already editing in my head. So I could put together stuff pretty quickly. But like I said, now it's 7 years into it that I do everything on the films, and I'm ready to make a film with a budget and maybe step away a little bit from the camera. But that's one thing I can't, writing, directing is one thing, but one thing I can't let go of is the editing. At least I have to do the first draft of it to put it in order, and then maybe somebody a second editor could take it on and polish it up and let me look at it. I'm willing. Right. At least I'm willing, to be like, yeah, I'll sit the fuck down and focus on my script and focus on my director and directing and characters. But it is very difficult because I'm a real control freak. I like to control everything in the film.
Right. Yeah, and the editing is as important as, or even more than anything. It can make or break.
Yes.
Everything.
Definitely.
Me and Stephen do a little bit of editing, so we know how painstaking it is.
You can turn a bad actor into a good actor if you know edit his lines and hit the way he moves and stuff. I have to do it, so I know. on some stuff, I won't get into it, but I've had to deal with that, and it's open. I plan to go back to England this year. I also am trying to pick up on my art. I do a lot of photography art and pieces that I put together along with the photo. I'll make like a collage of like weird stuff around it or mirrors or whatnot. Like it's pretty interesting, and they're very heavy pieces. But I want to really push my art, and I found that England was very organic for that. They're very open-minded. I went and I was screening a Slice of Life in Barcelona, and I was screening, it was a Slice of Life in Barcelona and Witch Hour. And Witch Hour is pretty hardcore. There's some violence in there, and I wasn't sure how the English were going to respond to my dark humor. And I was like, well, we'll test it definitely with these films. And they loved it. They were laughing at Witch Hour. So when I put out Nurse Shirley Foster, they, again, it was an old lady. It's pretty grim and freaky. And they were clapping. They really found it entertaining, and they saw the art in it. And I was surprised again. And I was like, you know what? This is great. So I love going to England. England has always treated me so good. And they actually understand my dark humor. So I think that's great what you guys are doing, and, to put it together and for it to exist and to be a part of the history of Kubrick. Because like Shirley, I think she's underappreciated sometimes. Like I said, just like I was talking about, the most obscure things over there in a record is like everything to me. It's like a pound in a market there, in a thrift store, and I'm just like, what's going on? So I see so much. When I met her, like I said, I didn't even know she was in anything to do with Kubrick. I didn't know. And I already saw something in her right away. But then when I found out, and I took off from there, that I was very lucky to even be speaking to her, that she was 82 years old. She was, still a working actress and had a great attitude about it. And she even told me herself, she was like, when I met Maria, I really thought that she was saying all this stuff and, okay, maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't happen. And bam, I was shooting with her in less than 2 weeks from when I met her. And that was out. And before you knew it, within 1 month, it was already in London Kino. It was already going to be in London, screening in front of an audience of over 100 people.
Shirley Jaffe.
Well, it was quite exciting for me because it's the first time, although I've done a couple of very nice features since I've lived down here, it's the first time I've been starred in a film.
Right.
And it's a very peculiar film and very spooky. And it's all through and about Clockwork Orange. Going along to it, I think it went down quite well, although I think people found it a little bit puzzling. It was exciting to be going and seeing it, and very surprising, because I really honestly didn't think that anything would come of this idea.
So that for her was just like a head spin, and I was just hoping that everybody else would help her out to get her more work in cool projects and stuff like that. And she does have friends, the same people that I've met that always support the filmmakers over there. You can definitely meet everybody that are just the locals, and that's at Brighton. In Brighton at the Shooters meeting. So you can look that up on Facebook. But it's amazing what you can find at network meetings and just going out and talking to people that this person knows this person. Oh, and I used to play, or that girl from the legendary band, let's say Girl School. That used to be my girlfriend. Or something. Like, what? I love that band. Are you serious? Like, oh my God. Do you have any picks or any picks? You have one of the guitar picks? So yeah, I'm a real big nerd like that. But I always have been. I have always been a collector of movies and records, and I've always had a strange taste and mind to go out and look for like really weird stuff.
Can I ask a quick question? Now, Shirley made a TV series in the 60s.
Yep.
So that's where you got the name from, is it? Because she's Shirley Jaffe. She played Nurse Hypo in Clockwork Orange, but she played the character of Nurse Foster in the 60s. So you brought all that together.
Exactly. Yeah, and she had that role as a nurse. It was a soap opera, a TV series. I don't know what's up with that of her always playing a nurse, but then I made her into a very demented nurse. So that was my job to sum that up for her. But yeah, it's quite a story because she was just, she had told me, and that's why she knew exactly where to go get that outfit. She knew exactly. She was like, I know this lady, and it's the same lady from back in the 70s when she was working with Kubrick, So yeah, it's that's how I just mixed it all in together because it was her, and that movie is about her.
I'll tell you very briefly about why the name, the Nurse Foster. I had a badge from when I was in, that was part of my uniform from when I was in Emergency Ward 10. I was in the series for about 8 months, doing perhaps one episode a month or something, and it closed, it died, and so I kept my badge, and I still had that. Aww. So I used that when I did the Nurse Shirley Foster. I don't know why she wanted to use my name. Perhaps she thought there was a sort of nice muddle, really, about the nurse in the film and the nurse in the little film and the nurse in the series.
Yeah, but definitely I did mix that all in there. So I'm glad you caught that. I totally forgot to add that in too. But that's cool.
Shame on me if I didn't pick that up in my research before this. Thank you, Stephen.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, for our Kubrick-loving audience, if there's anything else you want to add, and wrap it up here.
Nothing much. If you want to see Nurse Shirley Foster, you can go ahead and check it out on the Mayhem Film Kreations channel on YouTube. I got a couple movies on there, Witch Hours on there.
All right, and that's Kreations with a K.
Kreations with the K. Yep, Mayhem Film Kreations with the K. Yeah, and definitely if you want to check out my first feature film, A Slice of Life in Barcelona, that's streaming now on Amazon and Tubi, so you could definitely check that out. But I hope to keep on going strong and making movies.
All right, well, thank you. We're very appreciative of your time, Maria.
Cool.
And,
all right. Well, I wish you guys the best. I wish you guys the best. And anytime that you guys want to talk about if I can pull together another little sequel or something like that, you'll be the first to know about it.
This interview was conducted by James Marinaccio and produced by Stephen Rigg. Coming soon, we'll have a couple of original droogs stopping by the show and more Clockwork-themed episodes for you to slushy. So grab yourself a glass of Moloko or a nice chasa of the old chai, lend us your ukos and spend some time with us on your Audinoki, as it'll be real aura show. And be sure to watch Maria Galindo's Nurse Shirley Foster on YouTube. Follow the Kubrick's Universe page on FB to keep tabs on the only continuously running podcast for all things Kubrick out there. And don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever your pods are casted. And for the best community of online discussion for Stanley, be sure to join the Stanley Kubrick Appreciation Society on Facebook. I'm your host and humble narrator, Jason Furlong. Thanks for listening. We are going to leave you with an amusing anecdote from Tony and Shirley Jaffe, where Tony explains how the famous clockwork home got its name.
I'll give you one laugh, which you probably won't want to use, Stephen, and cut, as to why we called it Skybreak.
Oh, yes, please.
Please.
Right. When we went there, Shirley said, well, what are we going to call it? Because we didn't have numbers in the road. We had names. And I said, well, I'd like to call it Break Wind. Shirley said, no. So I said, okay, Windbreak. And she said, no. So I said, okay, Skybreak.
Skybreak, yeah.
Brilliant.
Wow.
Name. Yeah.
That's incredible.
And that's a true story.
I love it.
That's great. Hey, well,
you lived at, well, I have to slip this into Stephen. They lived at Skybreak. James Bond lived at Skyfall. Yeah. And my property is actually called Downwind. And you never want to be
Downwind.
Here. Yes.
Honestly.
Especially if Tony breaks.
Break wind.
If Tony breaks wind, you don't want to be on my property.
Ditto. I am being serious.
And don't call me Shirley.
It's Kubrick's universe. We just live in it.
We have taken very thorough precautions in this podcast against broadcasting anything which might only be attributed to human error.
These guys aren't scientists. They're making it up as they go along.
Thank you for listening to the Stanley Kubrick Podcast. Come back soon.
It was real nice talking to you. Bye. Over and out.
This show comes to you from the Stanley Kubrick Appreciation Society.